Hey you guys, this is Rafael from ShilohRelics.com. I hope you're doing well. Like my buddy down in Louisiana says, never had so much and needed so little. And I'm glad I get to be here with you guys today. We're going to talk about something that started out life in Liberty, Indiana. Yep, Liberty, Indiana. Never heard of it before this morning, but the little research I try to do, I learn something every day, and that's a good thing. There was a fella born in 1824 in Liberty, Indiana. He's best known for his facial hair, but he was also a very important political person, a very important military person, and an inventor. Today, we're going to talk about Ambrose Burnside and his invention that we have in front of us. Burnside was born 1824, Liberty, Indiana, went on to go to the U.S. Military Academy in West Point. He graduated there in 1847, served a little bit, went back home, which at the time was Rhode Island. He developed a gun, and the gun was a little bit different than anything else out there, mainly because of the cartridge it used. It looked like this. It was shaped like an ice cream cone. And that's why they've always sold well, because they look a little bit different. They have a brass casing, lead bullet, powder on the inside, and they load an interesting way. This is the gun that is the Burnside patent. They load, when you cock the hammer back, you drop, this is called the block. And the block is where you put the cartridge into. Put the whole cartridge, brass casing and all. It seats up against it. Once you raise that, and you're ready to fire. All you have to do is put the percussion cap on the nipple, you're good to go. Great plan unless you're bouncing on horseback, people shooting at you, and all kinds of disarray going on around you. He made over 50,000 of these. Well, he didn't. After the first initial bunch, there was some problems and he lost the contract that he thought he had. They say there were some bribes and other things, but that's something for you to research because you get homework today. Not going to do it all for you. You get your homework, go study it. It's a really neat story. He sells off his interest in the company before the mass production starts. But during, these guns were made 1857 to 1865. They made over 50,000 of them in various models. And these guns are kind of cool to collect because there is a progression all the way through. They were trying to make it the best gun they could until they stopped production. The first model didn't even have a forestock on it. And the forestock is the piece of wood underneath the barrel. The barrel gets hot if you're shooting it. The forestock actually keeps your hand from getting as hot. The early model didn't have it. The later ones did. And the major production of these guns are the 4th and 5th model. They made 5 models. People vary on what makes a model because there are a lot of changes in these guns. And that's something you'll have to research. There's a ton of history on them. The best quick reference that you can find is Norm Flederman's Guide to Antique Firearms. Mr. Flederman was the foremost gun guy in the world. He actually came into the shop one time and I wasn't there, and he wrote me a note and it said, "Rafael, so glad I got to stop in your shop. It's wonderful. I'm so glad I wasn't there because I've got Norm Flederman writing that my shop was so cool, and if he'd came in, all I'd had was words." I got it on paper and I've saved it, and that's something that I treasure. I digress. Back to Mr. Burnside and his carbines. He's best known because of his facial hair. He grew these long chops going down here that people eventually would call sideburns. So you might not know he was a general. You might not know he helped with a gun. You might not know that later on he went to be the governor of Rhode Island. But you'll know sideburns. They got his name and they just stuck with it. See how they look? Thank you, Mr. Burnside. These guns were made 2 places. The first ones were made in Bristol, Rhode Island. And Rhode Island was where Burnside was living. It's where he went on to be the governor. The later production and the heavy production were done in Providence, Rhode Island. They made a really good gun. They worked on a lot of the problems that the gun had. One problem that they had was that block that we talked about wobbled, and it was hard to get back in place. So what they do, they put a little guide screw right here like that, and it goes through onto a channel in the block, and that holds it in place as it raises and lowers. And you know it's a later model Burnside if you see that screw on the side, because that's one of the improvements. Smart people, not just gunsmiths, you learn from your mistakes and you move forward. Everybody that's anybody's failed a few times, and if you keep working on it, eventually you'll get it right. Every piece of coal, if you hang in there long enough, is going to turn into a diamond. You just take a lot of pressure. So I'm halfway to becoming my own diamond. How about you guys? The gun, my caffeine will just not kick in this morning. I don't know what's going on. These guns fire a 54 caliber cartridge like we talked about, like this one. It fires from a 21-inch barrel. The earlier ones have a little bit different length. What's neat about these is that they actually use a cast steel barrel. And they stamp that on the barrel like this, but most of the time you can't see it because it's steel and it's not easy to stamp into. So it's a lot of times blurry or just not clear. They also mark them on the top of the block with the serial number and the top of the frame like this. You want to see matching serial numbers. A lot of times they get interchanged because it was interchangeable parts on these. But you like to see that serial number matching. This gun has matching numbers, has a little bit of the original finish on it. It has a nice bore, and the bore is the inside of the barrel. You want to see the lands and grooves of the rifling, and do you remember what the rifling's for? The rifling is to help the bullet travel more accurately, and they also make them go a little bit further. The back of the gun has the original piece like this. What's that for? It's a saddle ringing bar, so that cavalryman can clip a strap to it to be sure that it doesn't get lost with all the commotion that's going on when you're in battle. The guns are interesting. They've got their own little design. There's nothing else really like these during the Civil War. A lot of them were fairly close. This one, because of the cartridge, they're great cartridges until you run out. And when you run out, you're out of luck. Because it's not like you can just load it and fire it like a musket. But they're real cool guns, and I've got a couple of them on the site right now. I try to keep them because they're always interesting. I buy every one I can find that's got a little bit of money in it. I like them. And I like the Burnside connection because people like Burnside because he was so interesting. He was a Union general. He commanded a lot of important battles. There's Burnside Bridge. There's just lots of things. You need to do a little research on him. Interesting fact, actually in 1871, he was the first president of the National Rifle Association. So his interaction with guns and gun collecting and the importance of guns was very obvious. And it's kind of cool to have one of the guns that's associated with an early gun pioneer like Burnside. I hope you've enjoyed today. I hope you have a great day. I know this one was a little hurried. I've wandered a little bit, but I got a lot to do today. And thank you guys for letting me have a lot to do today. In the last few weeks, these have helped tremendously. We've been having great sales. I appreciate you guys more than you could possibly imagine. I was hoping that these would have a positive effect, and you guys have made it happen. We've sold everything from bullets to uniforms. I'm so thankful for each one of you because I didn't know what I was going to do, and you guys have helped me. I hope you've enjoyed these. I hope I've helped you a little bit by passing time. I hope that when you get that chance that you are kind to people like you've been kind to me, because I see it. I'm so thankful for it. I appreciate it. I love you guys, and I'll catch you next time. Have a great evening.